But speaking of some fucking bullshit, guys, the U.S. Congress back in session and typically back on their bullshit because Congress I largely view as an ineffective body, right? A very ineffective legislative body, unless, of course, you're the Pentagon. And then Congress works very well because they will be sending hundreds of billions of dollars your way. No questions asked, no audit needed, doesn't matter. And a vote this week was very much along those lines. So if you had not heard, the United States, for reasons, I suppose, related to Zionism, continues to support the military defense of Israel, which is a very wealthy nation, a nuclear armed nation, even though they're not supposed to be, but they got nukes over there in Israel. And for reasons I don't fucking understand. I mean, I do, but not that I can articulate. The United States continues to send Israel billions of dollars every year. And this year, well, this week was a vote. If you could pop up B1 for me, Tunde, at your convenience. This was a vote this week that the House took about whether or not to authorize $1 billion for Israeli defense to support their Iron Dome missile defense shield. The dome that they use to shoot down rockets that come over from Gaza, right? And because, mind you, by the way, Israel be dropping whole ass, ginormous ass bombs on Gaza, in the West Bank, on Palestine, dropping shit on mosques, etc. But look no further. If you need a reason for Republicans and Democrats to come together, they will always agree to fund the police to the hilt. They will always agree, for the most part, to fund the military to the hilt. And they will always agree to fund Israel, again, a wealthy nuclear armed nation, because Israel has a right to defend itself. Well, I don't understand why Israel can't defend itself with its own fucking money. Okay. Why they sending Israel $1 billion while the power grid in Texas is all fucked up? And while they're trying to hopefully preserve the sequoia trees in Joshua National Forest in California for wildfire. I mean, there's better ways, I think, that $1 billion American dollars could be spent here in America, or shit, even send $1 billion to a poor country. Don't send it to a fucking rich ass country like Israel. I digress. But let me give you guys a quick example of how Republicans and Democrats tend to come together on this. Well, let me start with the Democrats, actually. And I'm just about to play this clip kind of just to make y'all mad, because because again, I skimmed through literally over 2 hours of the House morning session from yesterday. And not only was it boring as fuck, but it was infuriating as fuck. But anyway, here's Nancy Pelosi, and she's going to be followed up by, I believe, a Democratic representative from Connecticut. She's a black woman. I can't recall her name off the top. But Tunde, if you could cue up, I suppose that would be B2 for me, please. Just to let y'all know where the Democrats as a whole. This is a very accurate slice of what the Democratic tenor was on the House floor yesterday surrounding this vote for the Israeli Iron Dome defense missile defense system. Tunde, let's take a look at that, please.
Iron Dome is a purely defensive system designed to safeguard all civilians living in Israel. The system was co-developed by the United States and Israel and has saved thousands of lives. Additional financial support for Iron Dome was part of the Memorandum of Understanding negotiated by President Obama in 2016. The funding being appropriated today simply continues and strengthens this support. Passage of this bill reflects the great unity in Congress on a bipartisan and bicameral basis for Israel's security. Assistance to Israel is vital, because Israel's security is an imperative for America's security.
I am a Democrat, and I remain firm in my commitment and appreciation for Israel's legitimate right to self-defense. And I remind everyone again that the motion to commit just sends the bill back to committee. According to the Memorandum of Understanding between Israel and the United States reached in 2016, for fiscal years 2019 through 2028, the United States is expected to provide $500 million every year for missile defense. That has not changed. Funding for the Iron Dome was never in jeopardy.
Just to let y'all know where the Democrats is coming from, baby. The funding for the Iron Dome was never in jeopardy, despite I guess a procedural measure taken by the squad who tried to separate this funding for the Iron Dome out of the continuing resolution bill to keep the federal government open, right? So that this is what they did. This was HR 5323, okay? And the funding for the Israeli Iron Dome passed the House by a vote of 420 to 8. I thought it was 420 to 9, but this Times of Israel package, or rather article, says 420 to 8. 8 Democrats, y'all. Rashida Tlaib, Ilhan Omar, Ayanna Pressley, Cori Bush, Andre Carson. I'm impressed. Okay, Andre Carson. Maria Newman of Illinois, Jesus Garcia of Illinois, and Raul Grijalva of Arizona. And one Republican, Representative Tom Massey of Kentucky, all voted no. Look at that, Molly. Look at Kentucky. Look at Tom Massey taking a principled stand against this. Now, I'm sure he voted no for some bullshit. Now, AOC, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez of New York, and Hank Johnson of Georgia are the only lawmakers to vote present. And y'all, now, you want to talk about a bitch move. How else can I categorize what Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez did as just a bitch move? Now, she is all free Palestine in the streets, and she gets to the House and vote present, and then had the nerve to cry about it. Hold on, Tunde. Before we get into deeper, since I'm on AOC, I think it's the very last clip on the doc. Could you pull up that clip of Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez crying or fake crying? Some of the right wing coverage of this, they call it performative, and I don't know if I disagree with that, but say she was dropping them crocodile tears. It's like, AOC, just say you want to run for the Senate in a couple years. Just say you need all that Jewish lobby and Jewish money behind you up in New York in order to even consider being a competitive candidate for New York Senate, right? AOC, unfortunately, is not unlike a lot of other progressives. And I know she's not black, but this voting behavior is very reminiscent of Congressional Black Caucus behavior. When you get in there, before you on a campaign trail, you running, you like, yeah, defund the police, get the militarization out of the police department, and you go into the House and immediately start voting for funding the police and militarizing local law enforcement. She just got co-opted, man. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez tragically is believing her own hype and has higher political ambitions, and therefore she's already selling out, I would imagine, whom she seems as most expendable. And in this case, it would be the Palestinians. Did you pop that up for me, Tunde? Yeah. Y'all see her? Okay, she's in the lower left-hand corner. I don't know what in the world she's wearing, but I mean, okay, whatever. Yes, and she's getting consoled and patted on the back and boo-hoo, hoo. But so I just listed off to y'all the lawmakers who voted against, right? 8 Democrats and 1 Republican voted against the $1 billion funding for the Israeli Iron Dome. But one person stood up and called a thing. And it was extremely brave for her to do this. And I'm talking about none other than Detroit's own Rashida Tlaib. What's up, Dearborn Heights? What's up, Detroit? What's up, 313? The 313 ain't with the shits. Y'all know Detroit don't play that shit. Don't they? Cue up that Rashida Tlaib clip, man, because y'all, Rashida Tlaib. Let me tell y'all how I know Rashida Tlaib got in there and spoke truth, because the white men's heads exploded like after she finished talking. And I'm going to show you the clips of the white man's heads going to explode. But that's how you know that black woman / woman of color / Arab woman / Palestinian woman got up there and dropped nothing but facts. Tunde, let's hear from Congresswoman Rashida Tlaib.
I rise in opposition to this supplemental. I will not support an effort to enable and support war crimes, human rights abuses, and violence. We cannot be talking only about Israelis' need for safety at a time when Palestinians are living under a violent apartheid system and are dying from what Human Rights Watch has said are war crimes. We should also be talking about Palestinian need for security from Israeli attacks. We must be consistent in our commitment to human life, period. Everyone deserves to be safe there. The bill claims to be, quote, a replenishment for weapons apartheid Israel used in a crisis it manufactured when it attacked worshipers at one of the most holy faith there. We should need for safety at a time when supplemental. I will not support life, period. Everyone deserves to be safe there. The bill claims to be, quote, a replenishment for weapons apartheid Israel used in a crisis it manufactured when it attacked worshipers at one of the most holiest Islamic locations, the Al-Aqsa Mosque, committing, again, numerous war crimes. And yet, a $1 billion in American tax dollars that my colleagues want to give represents, to me, an absurd and unjustifiable 140 times increase to U.S. funding for the Iron Dome. I firmly believe our country must oppose selling weapons to anyone, anywhere, without human rights law compliance. The Israeli government is an apartheid regime. Not my words, the words of Human Rights Watch and Israel's own Human Rights Watch organization, B'Tselem. I urge my colleagues, please stand with me in supporting human rights for all. I yield.
Damn! Damn! Do you know how much courage and gumption it took for Rashida Tlaib to go in there and say that exact thing regarding that exact vote, y'all? She called Israel exactly what it is, an apartheid state. She called out the massive human rights violations that have been cited from lots of human rights organizations across the country, man. And what do y'all think the response was from Republicans and Democrats in Congress once Rashida Tlaib got up there and dropped knowledge? I already told y'all, the heads exploded. The heads exploded real quick. Jonathan Guerrero, thank you so much for your support, Jonathan. Jonathan says the reason why evangelicals support Israel is because they want to usher in the apocalypse when they rebuild the Temple of Solomon over the mosque. Hey, man. That is probably what is going on behind this, and I don't support that. Like, you know, if the evangelical Christians think that Jesus is on the way, damn it, well, we don't need to hurry Jesus up, or maybe we do. I don't know, but not in the way that they're going about this in order to basically slaughter Palestinians to no end, to get their hands on all of Gaza and the West Bank, which is absolutely happening. But guys, as promised, white man's heads going to explode. Tunde, if we could please see that clip.
Mr. Speaker, the truth has finally come out on the floor of the House of the United States of America. I heard some of my Democratic colleagues stand with me, with Israel, with our ally, to fight terrorism with a defensive weapon system. And what did we just hear? We heard the Democratic Party speak out. We heard right now from my colleague across the aisle with a shocking statement. She opposes this because they have a vocal minority in the majority party that is anti-Israel, that is anti-Semitic, and as Americans, we can never stand for that. I grew up with Holocaust survivors. I grew up with children of Holocaust survivors. Israel has been attacked and attacked and attacked since its inception. As Americans, I beseech you, I reach out to the majority and I say, condemn what we just heard on the floor. Condemn terrorism. This is a defensive weapon system. Stop playing your procedural games. I hear commit, recommit. It was a motion to recommit. You just saw something on this floor I thought I would never see. Not only as a member of this House, but as an American. Let us stand with Israel. Let's combat anti-Semitism wherever it is in the world, whether it's in the United States, whether it's from terrorism. I am shocked, Mr. Speaker, with what I just heard. I ask the majority to condemn the comments that were just made by their member.
I cannot allow one of my colleagues to stand on the floor of the House of Representatives and label the Jewish democratic state of Israel an apartheid state. I reject it. Today, this caucus, this body, the House of Representatives will overwhelmingly stand with our ally, the state of Israel, in replenishing this defensive system. If you believe in human rights, if you believe in saving lives, Israeli lives and Palestinian lives, I say to my colleague who just besmirched our ally, then you will support this legislation. May I have 15 more seconds?
You're the gentleman, 15 seconds. You're the gentleman, 30 seconds.
Is recognized for an additional 30 seconds?
Nah, fuck his 30 seconds.
Mr. Speaker, we can have an opportunity to debate.
Yeah, fuck his 30 seconds, yo. We ain't giving that motherfucker no more 30 seconds. Listen, man. This is how you know that Rashida Tlaib stood on the floor of the House and spit nothing but truth. Because, number one, everything that she mentioned had everything to do with the state of Israel and the state of Israel, their policies and the way that they treat the Palestinian people inhumanely, how they illegally come over and usurp Palestinian land for settlers, right? She didn't say shit about Jewish. She said Israel as a state, these are their policies, and these are how their policies form an apartheid state with Palestine, right? Or exclude or alienate Palestinians from the region, right? And by denying them rights and bombing them and all kinds of nefarious, grotesque, genocidal shit. And it's crazy to me to see Republican and Democrat alike spin this into anti-Semitism somehow, right? What I'm very proud of is that here in the 21st century of the United States, I believe, now correct me if I'm wrong, my Jewish brethren and sistren, but I think most American Jews are like, fuck how Israel treats Palestine, right? I think that there's enough American Jews who don't like that shit, okay? And who are vehemently against that shit. Let me put Bernard Sanders up there as one of those Jewish Americans who are like, this is some bullshit the way y'all treat Palestine. Bernie is very vocal in his support for Palestine, and it is so disingenuous of Republicans and Democrats alike to smear Rashida Tlaib as being anti-Semitic when she, of all people, has probably more firsthand knowledge about how Israel engages in genocide and apartheid because she herself is Palestinian and she still has family in Gaza, right? So she know what time it is more than the rest of them clowns. And trust me, I watched a lot of that fucking House shit, that vote, right? And all the motherfuckers, Republican and Democrat, all stood up and said, I've been to Israel and I've seen how important it is for the Iron Dome to remain in place. Well, have you walked your ass over to Palestine? Impress me and tell me you've been to Palestine and observed those conditions and the way that those people are forced to live under Israeli occupation. Impress me and tell me that you've at least gone over to see the other side, to see what people are talking about. And you know what? This is a perfect time to reinforce fuck Barack Hussein Obama for agreeing to that memorandum of understanding that the United States is going to supply at minimum $500 million annually for the next 10 years. I believe the year is 2028 when the U.S. will not be giving Israel $500 million for their missile defense. Explain to me why the fuck Israel, a rich ass country, needs aid from the United States while the United States infrastructure is literally crumbling around us. Make it make fucking sense, y'all. And unfortunately, this is irregardless of who is in the White House. It don't matter if it's Biden, Trump, Obama, Bush. This would be going the same way. And that is why Rashida Tlaib is so courageous to call a thing a thing. She's being smeared as an anti-Semite, which she absolutely is not. It is not anti-Semitic to criticize Israeli state policies because Israeli state policies are fucked up for people who are non-white Israelis, right? Because there's plenty of African Jews in Israel getting treated like shit right now because Israel is racist as fuck. Period, point blank. You could quote me on that shit, okay? That's not even up for dispute. So fuck Republicans, fuck Democrats. Shout out to Rashida Tlaib. A special fuck you to Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, because she could have really put her name to some shit, and she is really showing us what kind of time she is on. She is all about careerism. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez has her eyes on the prize, so that she is looking for that power. She wants to be Senator AOC. And listen, you cannot be Senator AOC voting against Israel coming out of New York, okay? That's not anti-Semitic. That's just what the fuck it is, okay? That's understanding the constituency, and it is not cool, especially for someone like her who has helped to build her brand on her alliance with the people of Palestine, right? And their conditions and speaking out. But this is not the first time that Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez has tabled her principles in favor of her political ambition. So a special fuck you to AOC, a special fuck you to Nancy Pelosi, a special fuck you to Joe Biden and all the rest of you sucker ass Democrats who continually look the other way and disregard the plight of the Palestinian people. We stand with Palestine. We want a free Palestine, and we will call out anybody who is sometime on Palestine.